Steve Forbes, chairman and editor-in-chief of Forbes Media and former presidential candidate, is in focus now. Steve, this feels like we are running around in circles. What is the president trying to do?
The president's trying to have it all ways. His whole thing on vaccines is very confusing. People don't like the coercion part of it, and it is leading to people getting fired. Here we have health workers being laid off at a time when there's a shortage of them. Airlines, same thing. And so the Delta variant, that hurt in September, and this vaccine mandate's also going to hurt. What comes out of this jobs report is what's amazing is how the economy is just raring to go if these artificial barriers are removed. If you look at the household survey, which better hits small businesses, hitting what small businesses are doing, the job creation was actually 526,000. The big decline in jobs came not in the private sector, which was up over 300,000 in September, revised another up 100,000 for July and August. The big fall off was in government workers. That is especially in the schools with these crazy mandates, people confused about what they can and cannot do. So these are government-inflicted report, not something about the natural health of the economy, which would heal quickly if certain things were not stupidly done. Be blunt about it.
That is so fascinating. So what you're saying is that President Biden effectively is getting his own workforce fired. I mean, those are the people that he can control in the government, right?
Yes.
It's mind-boggling. Huge companies like IBM and American Airlines are now already warning their employees that if they are not vaccinated by November 24th, that's their deadline, they will be fired. IBM,
and they don't even take into account people who've had the disease, where the immunity is better than the vaccines. This kind of one-size-fits-all blunderbuss from the top, very destructive, ultimately.
So, Steve, I just looked it up. IBM is the 7th largest company in the nation. I mean, they hire a whole lot of folk. And we know that small businesses hire upwards of 66% of the American workforce. And they're hurt by this because they have to hire literally their own vaccine czar to figure out who's vaccinated and who's not for their customer base, like in New York, and also their employees. What is this going to do to the price of things?
Well, what it does is artificially raise costs. We have costs rising because the Fed is printing too much money, which will avalanche the economy next year when they stop the gimmicks from preventing it this year, which they'll run out of. And but they just artificially the whole thing of the breakdown of the supply chain from COVID. One, economists and experts underestimated grossly what happens when you shut down the whole global economy. You don't turn it on like a light switch or a faucet. So that takes time. But then they keep adding these artificial barriers, which stand in the way, raise costs, and that's going to hit the consumer, which will hit the economy. Connect the dots. Hello.
I know, it seems so basic, and of course you're so great at explaining things. It just kind of makes you even understand it to the point like you want to call the White House and say, what don't you get? But we can't do that. Anyway, meanwhile, Democrats
we can
are
try,
no closer
but then they'll send the FBI
yeah,
on
we
us.
could try. But only because we're parents. Democrats are no closer to a deal on the spending bill. And you know, Biden is his whole agenda in peril now. Progressives saying that they are willing to negotiate, but they want a higher price tag than some moderates. I mean, a lot higher. And one of the holdouts is Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema. We've seen her harassed all over the place. The bathroom, the plane. It happened again.
Congresswoman? Senator Sinema, would you please tell the majority of Americans who support Build Back Better why you won't vote for it? Who are you going to leave behind? Seniors who need health care, folks who need housing, the climate crisis, who are you going to leave behind, Senator?
She did correct her title. She's earned it. She's a senator, Steve.
Yes, she is a senator, and so far a very courageous one under intense pressure. What she and Senator Manchin recognize, it's not just the top-line number. As we know, we can manipulate that. You can take in 10 years of estimated tax revenues and only have 5 years of spending, saying everything will expire in 3 to 5 years, so what's your problem? People are onto that game. Also, they're going to try to fob off costs on paper to the states to make that number look even lower. The key thing is what you're putting into that bill. Massive new entitlements, which you never get rid of, which will undermine various parts of the American economy and leave behind millions of people, as Lincoln put it, who want to improve their lot in life because there'll be less opportunity. So this bill is going to harm fundamentally change the American whole economic system and social system, and there's very little debate on it. You want free community college. Ask, why are college costs going up so much higher than the rate of inflation? Because of administrative bloat. Why don't they address that? These are all issues that deserve debate and discussion instead of trying to ram it through in one grand bill that fundamentally turns America upside down, and we're not supposed to say anything about it. And the police powers for the IRS, very, very ominous. Everything you do is now going to be on the purview of IRS agents.
No, it's true. And I said this week, I mean, if the DOJ sicks the FBI on parents, I mean, that's two lanes of intimidation that you have for most Americans, the IRS and now potentially the FBI's new focus on parents. You said something that was so true and so jarring. I want to make sure people get it on our way out, Steve. And that is that entitlements rolled into a huge bill like this, you never get rid of them. Because no matter what you do, you don't redline them in an executive order. Like, nobody goes, if they're even reading them the first time, these bills, nobody goes back through and says, you know what, on page 2,550, let's redline that one entitlement. You are so right about that. They become permanent. Steve Forbes, thank you for being in focus today.
Thank you.